and gents, thought I would give you an updated Vanquish Soul list. A couple of people have asked me for what the list is looking like. Now obviously we know that there are gonna be some reveals in terms of Vanquish Soul, and there's already been a few leaks, but as I said previously in a previous video, I just want to make sure that it's actually coming officially from Konami before I start doing anything with the deck, because things could change, card text could change. So yeah, I just want to wait for the actual official release. But anyway, without wasting any more time, let's just get into the list, ladies and gents. Now Vanquish Soul, for the most part at the moment, is, I wouldn't say pretty cut and dry, but there are a few cards that you definitely need to include. Raisin being one of them. He's your play starter. He's the heart and soul of the deck at the moment. If you don't see a way to Raisin at the moment, you kind of like, I wouldn't say you're crippled, but you're not playing it to the maximum potential. So you definitely need 3 Raisin, ladies and gents. I've also decided to go for the 3 Dr. Madlove. Now this isn't typical in the build, and at the moment there's only a couple of worthy search targets, so you don't necessarily need to have all 3. But the reason why I've gone for 3 Madlove is because I wanted to see a normal summon, because there are times when you're kind of playing, you just don't have any Vanquish or normal summon. So having 6 in a deck is not a problem. There's not really much else in the way of normal summon, so I thought just to max out on the normal summonable Vanquish or monsters, alongside the 1 Pantera. She's obviously not as impactful, but she's just another name that you kind of like need. She's good at clearing back row, and she's also an earth target, which is searchable, so you definitely need the 1 Pantera. For the biggest Vanquish Soul monsters, this hasn't changed somewhat. I'm still running the 3 Borga. Borga's probably your best in terms of like resource management, just because you can draw you a card each turn depending on what you've got in your hand. You can also burn in time, so this deck never ever should lose in time. It shouldn't happen unless you're playing very, very slowly, and this deck can finish games off super quickly with little to no extra deck access at all. So definitely worth playing the 3 Borga. He is your life as soul. Double Xiaolong, yeah, again, this is perfect at 2. You don't necessarily need any more than 2. It's highly searchable. I know I've done a video previously about just some basic Vanquish Soul plays, and Xiaolong was definitely the main focal point, and it still is to this day until we get the new support. You definitely want to see your Xiaolong in your hand, along with a couple of fires. Next, we are also playing the double Caesar Valius. Now previously I was playing more of a heavy like engine build, where I was going for 3 Valius, 3 heavy Borga, but I've decided to bump Caesar Valius down, just because we're not necessarily trying to play through loads of fields with just engine. Even though this engine is very, very strong, very recursive, we kind of need some space for other things to be able to kind of like facilitate our play. So I've dropped one of the Caesar Valiuses down to 2. You could potentially get away with just playing the 1. I'm not too comfortable with playing 1, just because I know how things can happen. Like anything can happen. You can end up with a Fenrir on your opponent's field and just banish one of these face down. So you definitely need kind of like a little bit of a backup plan, and having multiple different attributes in your hand is not a problem. So if you see this alongside like a few others and you put this on field and you got the other one in hand, you still can do stuff, so it's never really an issue. The rest, triple stake your soul, this goes without saying. Double Snow Devil. Now this is another little bit of a change that I've done. Previously I was only playing 1, but with the way that this deck is working at the moment, and with the way that decks can kind of like just recur resources, I felt like playing the 2 Snow Devil is kind of like what helps me to just secure game basically. The burn damage alongside the field nuke is definitely very, very strong. You don't always get to pull it off, but having an additional target for your Dr. Madlove is nice in of itself. There's been very few times I've actually bricked on having too many of these in hand, and if you do, you can just hold on to one. This actually does trigger Xiaolong as well, so that's worth keeping in mind, ladies and gents. And the other Vanquish Soul engine piece is the 1 Vanquish Soul Continue. That's it for the Vanquish Soul engine. For the honorary engine, I know we've done this before, so I won't waste too much time on it. Triple Fenrir, it's a nice earth target alongside the 1 Rise Heart. This just goes without saying. Depending on what you got in your hand, you can kind of like facilitate whether you go for the earth or the fire, but yeah. And I'm also still running the 2 Bestials, the 1 Magnum and the 1 Jerusalem, just because Fiendsmith is still a thing. This can kind of check Fiendsmith, so to speak, and it's also a dark attribute, and that's something that I will say in this deck, ladies and gents. You can play a load of different hand traps, but the ones that give you the most value, the ones that match up with the attributes. And there are times when I've had other hand traps in here that just don't like do anything, and they just kind of sit in your hand, and you can't really do much with them, which Ash Blossom is definitely one that you can facilitate, which is not a problem. But this hand trap, ladies and gents, more chummy for Wallace. I've main decked this just because, for two reasons. One, it can try and prevent my opponent from going completely off on their turn, and two, the reason I'm main decking it is because Vanquish Soul's engine is very, very strong. It can kind of push through a number of boards depending on what they are. Obviously the meta decks it's going to have a problem with, but for the most part, anything that's not like top of the meta, it can kind of like chew through a board or even just play on your opponent's turn. So having a full Wallace to kind of like facilitate getting attributes into hand and make sure you've got the right attributes to trigger each of the Vanquish Soul monsters effect is crucial. So I've decided to main deck the 3. This is an easy side out going into games 2 and 3, depending on whether or not you're going first, or an easy side in. So definitely worth playing, and if you get your hands on some more Charmers, ladies and gents, I do recommend it as a staple going forward. And then the last two cards, these were just two flex spots, and I decided to put in one Bell and one DD Crow. DD Crow's been coming up a lot more recently. People are playing without fear because Abyss Dweller's not in the format, so they're just triggering a whole load of graveyard effects, whether that's been special summon, recursion, but just having a 1 DD Crow is nice alongside the Bow. It guarantees that if you draw it under full Wallace, you've actually just got some different interactions as well as some of the other cards that you've got on field, and I've quite liked them as a one-of because I've seen them alongside other things that can make use of them. So there is an argument to play like maybe more one of DD Crows because it's obviously not once per turn, but it's worked out with the 1-on-1. And then onto some of the generic spells and traps. We have gone with one Harpy's Feather Duster. Again, a nice easy side out. I've decided to main it. Sometimes you need to clear some back row before you start doing stuff. And Duo Drive setting the field spell for Ryziel is just a little bit of a problem. Like Ryziel Cross is just annoying. So yeah, I've decided to main that the one Harpy's Feather Duster. Obviously going first, you can just side it out and put in some, I don't know, judgments or whatever you want. The one Call by the Grave, because Droll does actually hurt this deck at the moment. There's no easy way to get things out of the deck bar searching it. You've got one method of special summoning from the deck, which is Stake Your Soul, which is not searchable. So you kind of need to protect yourself from certain hand traps. Targeting hand traps do not fare very well against Vanquish Soul. As you know, they can like bounce their monsters in between hand and field, so they don't do too well. But like anything like anything like Droll and Lockbird, Ash Blossom, for example, those cards are a little bit of a problem. So we need a way to kind of like combat them. Speaking of ways to combat hand traps, one Triple Tactics talent, like it's a one-of now, so you might as well just throw it in your deck. Whether you're going first or second, it's always going to be live, which I only really used to play one talent after a bit anyway, because I felt like I was bricking on it and just one seems to be fine anyway. So I haven't really lost out with the whole talent thing. I do feel like it's better at one because you see it going second and you feel like you can play through a board. So yeah, just the one talents. Also, just for a bit of consistency, 2 Infernoble Arms Durandals, as well as the 1 Reinforcements of the Army, just to try and help me see Raisin a lot sooner than I would ideally like to. So yeah, and that's it for the main deck, ladies and gents. So onto the extra deck. Extra deck, we've got Triple Rock. I know some people play like some people play like 2, for example, but I quite like the 3. Unicorn's a thing as well, so you definitely want to have a couple just to be able to keep up with the grind game, because Unicorn banishing this out of your extra deck and you only having 1 on field to resolve feels really, really rough. So I've gone with the 3 Rock of the Vanquishers. It's your most used extra deck card out of the lot, apart from one other basically, so it's definitely worth playing the 3 in my opinion. 1 Dot, the Dark Charmer Gloomy, as well as 1 Heater and 1 SP Little Knight to round out the Link monsters. A lot of these goes without saying. The Zeus package in Borbo, Shaka 9, and then obviously, where's it gone? AA Zeus, yeah, this goes without saying. Again, just clears fields, allows me to play main phase 2. 1 Plan B, just in case. 1 Evil Swarm Exciton Knight. I haven't really used this too much, to be honest. This is potentially a flexi spot. You could actually take this out, as well as the Biguska. These are like interchangeable. I did have Dweller in one of these slots, but obviously Dweller's not a thing anymore, so it is what it is. 1 Battling Boxer King Dempsey. Another reason why I played the the maxed out and the Dr. Madloves is just because it can facilitate a rank 4 depending on what you've got in your hand. So I've gone for the Battling Boxer King Dempsey just for another way to access Raisin out of my deck, and this does paying dividends every now and again, so yeah, it is used. One Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon, as if we didn't need enough burn. This can actually close out games along with your Heavy Borga. It is a rank 7, it's very easy to summon, can't be destroyed by card effects, so when you actually resolve the trap, it just stays on field, so yeah, it's nice. The second most used extra deck monster in the deck is Superstar Slayer Typhon Crisis. Now, the reason why it's the second most used is because when you've got Snow Devil, ladies and gents, like, you can actually just, as long as you've got the correct attributes in hand, you can actually just end your turn on a Sky Crisis as well as the Rock of the Vanquisher, and let your opponent just play, and then when you're ready, you can flip the trap. One, the reason why I do that is because it will prevent your opponent from doing certain things with the extra deck monsters, but two, it clears the Typhon as well. It clears the Typhon to be able to use your Caesar Valius pop, or just obviously be unaffected by card effects, activate card effects. So I use this quite a lot, especially going second. So I'll bait a few interruptions, I'll try and use as many resources up that my opponent's got on field, and then I'll go into a Typhon, set the trap, and then I'm just good to go. And then the thing that I like about this deck is you can play on your opponent's turn, so yeah, very solid. And the last card is the one Chaos Angel. Obviously you can't make this with lights unless you wanted to put some light monsters in here, so it's only really going to be the Battle Destruction, but just being able to clear a card off the field and be a 3500 attack beat stick is very, very nice. So yeah, you could actually take this out for something else, but I quite like the Chaos Angel, and like I said, there's not many times when you're going to go into your extra deck and like basically make the utility of the extra deck any more than what it needs to be, just because you only really need rock to resolve, and just you just off to the races from there, ladies and gents. But yeah, that is it. That is my updated Vanquish Soul list. Obviously, as soon as the support comes, ladies and gents, I am going to change this list, and you know we're going in on this deck. My favorite deck, very, very, very fun and rewarding to play. I took it to locals again. Depending on when you're watching this, I took it to locals on Wednesday the 16th, and a few players that hadn't played for a while came to the locals and actually said, oh, this deck looks really, really fun. And I was like, you know what, it is. You just have to make sure you're up to date on your matchups and you know when to interact with your opponent. So yeah, but anyway, we find ourselves at the end of another video. If there's any kind of like spicy text or any kind of like inclusions that I should have in a deck, or maybe I should drop a few of the main deck monsters down, please let me know in that comment section below. As I said, I'm still refining the deck, probably for the most part, to get it to its most optimal like playability. But yeah, if you do like this content, you know what to do by now, ladies and gents. Hit that like button, share, subscribe, all of that beautiful good stuff, and I will definitely see you guys on the next video. Hope you enjoyed. Peace.